Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 805.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant colors. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what we're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding.
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I am Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim. I am proud to be the backup of John Stewart's backup's backup. So said the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we are going to be wrapping up our hard-traveling heroes with Green Lantern number 87 from 1971, Justice League of America 110 from 1974, Green Lantern 182 from 1984, and Green Lantern number 185 from 1985 as we take a look at John Stewart. We're sponsored as always by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
I threw in the search DC Finest, and right now on DCBS they've got 3 of them for us. DC Finest, the Joker, the last haha trade paperback, 48%, only $20.79. DC Finest Wonder Woman, Dawn Before Darkness trade paper, 48% off, $20.79, and DC Finest Batman, A Death in the Family trade paperback, 48% also, only $20.79. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, actually very similar to you, they released this one and I bought it. It's the DC Finest Wonder Woman Enter the Cheetah trade paperback. This collects from the early 40s, the original Wonder Woman issues, Sensation Comics 19 to 34, Comic Cavalcade 3 to 7, and Wonder Woman 5 through 9, the early issues involving the cheetah. And this is 536 pages, $39.99 regularly, 48% off, only $20.79. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotlines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Green Lantern, let you and I destroy that space junk.
All right, this is going to be the last part of our Green Lantern, Green Arrow, hard-traveling heroes look. There was one issue that was left, and it really was the kickoff of John Stewart. So because of that, we decided to take some cool issues from the John Stewart 50th anniversary collection. And so we're going to be covering Green Lantern 87. And the writer is Denny O'Neil, Neil Adams, Dick Giordano, and the cover's by Neil Adams. The backup story with Green Arrow is Elliot Maggin, Neil Adams, Dick Giordano, and Julie Schwartz as the editor. We've got The Man Who Murdered Santa Claus. This is from Justice League of America 110 from 1974. The writer is Len Wein, penciler Dick Dillon, inker is Dick Giordano. It's a Dirty Job, but from Green Lantern number 182 from 1984, Len Wein, penciler Dave Gibbons, ink by Mark Farmer, cover by Dave Gibbons. And In Blackest Day from Green Lantern 185, 1985, Len Wein, Dave Gibbons, and a cover by Dave Gibbons. So this has been interesting as far as taking a look at John Stewart this way, because the first issue we're talking about, I've read before. The rest of it, I have not. Yeah. And that was the joy of this. It was kind of seeing what early John Stewart looked like, what things still stuck today, him being an architect and those type of things, but also what's different just as the character has evolved over time. I'm really glad we got an opportunity to do this. I figured so much of this was going to be an exploration of just Hal and Ollie because of the hard traveling heroes that I didn't think we'd get to having a reason for a John Stewart-focused episode, and I'm so glad we do, because I really enjoyed these issues, and it was a lot of fun. Have you read any of this before? I read the initial issue with John, but I have not. I did not read the rest of it before.
No, I've not read any of this stuff, and it was for me. I was very excited to see what the original John Stewart was like, what his personality, and I was happy to see some of his personality 100% is still the same.
I agree.
We still have a lot of the John Stewart that I love in there, but again, I'll say the John Stewart, the current version of John Stewart, I like better than the original version. But there's still a lot of that same really cool qualities that John Stewart has that this character has. And I like that. And again, one of the big things that I love about John Stewart is he's a Marine, and how he brings in the Marine sniper stuff into being a Lantern. But he's not just a Marine, he's a Marine he's also an architect. So he's got that intelligence, and he's the warrior scholar is how I look at him, a Renaissance man. And that's how I look at the current John Stewart. Now, the original version of John Stewart has the architect, but for me, it was more of just intelligent, courageous. He had all the characteristics to make him a Green Lantern. I do love that we get some of that cool groove that John Stewart has, but he doesn't have that same Renaissance man feeling that the current John Stewart gives me, if that makes any sense. He's got all the tools to the trade, but it's still, there's just something different about the way he's written presently versus how he was originally written. And I still, no knocking, no insult to this John Stewart. This is a really cool character. Yeah, this John Stewart, the original John Stewart, how he was originally created, is a really cool character, really neat, and I like this. And to the point where I started going out, because we're doing 182 and 185. I picked up 183, 184, read those. Oh, let me read 186. So I'm continuing reading the John Stewart stuff.
Because they've been fun reads.
Oh, God, these have been some really good stuff, man.
Yeah.
And again, he's a great character. I love this character. Even the original guy, I still love this character.
Don't you feel, though, it's an evolution of the character versus a complete reimagining of the character? Because I feel like at the core, the Green Lantern we're reading today is this guy. Just he's grown over time. He's more today now, but everybody is. I'm not 1970s me. God, I'm not 1980s me, thank God. But I mean, we all evolve over time. John Stewart's original name is funny. Julie Schwartz wanted him to originally be called Lincoln Washington, because I was doing my research, and Neil Adams really opposed this because he said it was a very stereotypical name. He said, I'd like something a little more grounded, feels more current, feels where everyone's heading. And Neil Adams took a stand on that. I love stuff like that in the background where you see the artist really talking about, as they're creating these characters, doing something that feels very grounded in reality and contemporary. We talk so much about how some of the dialogue is very rooted into what they thought the dialogue should be in the 70s. But I love that then he was trying to make sure that the character felt more grounded in reality. And I think it shows where they were making a shift at DC. And character creation, storytelling, and story design. And I feel that's why these stories hold up so well with minor nitpicks.
Oh, God, yeah. 100% agree with you on that. And I agree with, I'm so glad they didn't call him Lincoln Washington, because I think John Stewart is a much better name. And I understand what she was thinking about doing with the naming, but no, I think everybody who thought that was 100% correct. And that's the strength of this character, in that there's some reflection of the times. You have to have the reflection of the times, 100%. But they didn't make him a stereotype of the times. He's his own man, and I do love that.
It says something about Julia Schwartz, though, and this ability to at least collaborate with the creative talent, that recognize that we should go with their thoughts on this one. So we start off this issue with, actually, let's take a look at the cover. I mean, because this is an iconic cover. This cover I've seen in a variety of different formats just because of the fact that it's shown up in so many best ofs. It's shown up in documentaries before, actually, because when you start taking a look at the history of Green Lantern, I've seen this iconic cover pop up in so many places. You know what I really love about it? Normally, I'm a background. I always reference the amount of detail in the background and stuff like this. I actually think this is striking because there is no background. The characters are in the foreground, what John's stance and what he's doing there. And I love that he doesn't have the mask on the cover, which is a trope that he adopts in this. It's whether John's wearing the mask or not in later issues is irrelevant. It was his original stance as far as why he didn't wear the mask in this, and that the cover features him without a mask, I think is really, really cool. I love the white background on this. I really do. And it's not normally multiple episodes. Now you've heard me rave about covers where I'm admiring the attention to detail and all that. This was an excellent choice and just as iconic without it. I think the noise in the background would have lost what's going on in the foreground.
It really lets you accent the main primary image that we want to have. No, I completely agree with you. I love just the plain blank background, and we're right there. We got John standing over what looks to be a beaten up Hal Jordan. I love it. Yeah, again, this was a great cover. This is one of those things where I'd like to get on my wall.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want any other nonsense in the background. That is perfect. I just love it the way it is. 48 pages, only 25 cents. I've referenced that one before. I'm like, oh my God, 48 pages. This one had a co-feature in the back of it. And I love the format here. This actually is Green Lantern, Green Arrow, because of the fact that the backup story is a Green Arrow story. So I like that they moved to that, and this is a good book for the two of them to be together. That's more of what I thought this title was growing up. So we're starting to get into the era where I would have had early, at least, dealings with Green Lantern and Green Arrow as a comic. And I thought that there was more of a co-feature type of aspect to it. Again, I didn't read, because I was a Batman guy, didn't read a ton of this, but this would have been one I would have gotten in 3-packs and stuff along the way. I loved those 3-packs. I miss those days of the spinner racks and grabbing the 3-pack of comics and trying to figure out what the heck that middle issue was. Because that was always the thing. You knew what the front and the back issue were. You did not, you had to like bend that thing just the right way in order to find out what was in the middle.
Who still has 3-packs?
Who?
Ollie's.
Do they really?
Yeah. Every so often I go in there. Yeah, I'll go in there and I look at their comic book section because they get closeouts and all that kind of stuff. And I
never go there. I need to
look there because again, sometimes they've got great deals on hardcovers and you're just like, this is only $5. What the heck?
So you know? 3-packs, are they current comics? What are they? What's in there?
Current comics,
and they're bundling them in the plastic like they used to.
The old school, like we used to. Yeah,
that's interesting. I wonder where else does that. I think it's a cool idea.
Yes,
they'd get a purchase out of me. Like I don't go to Ollie's, but now I'm going to because I especially when you're telling me they got hardcovers for $5.
Yeah,
I need to go check it out. But looking at the initial part of this issue, I didn't remember this concept, and I love it, of there being a backup. I knew about Guy Gardner, and that Guy Gardner went through some evolution as a character along the way and became very Guy Gardner. I knew that Guy Gardner was also, like Hal, considered to be super worthy at this time. But I remember Guy being, they had to actually take Guy out in order to open up the opportunity for John. So Guy's been hurt at this point in order to open up this piece, which we open up this story with Guy Gardner, who is a very different Guy Gardner than the one we're used to now. Because our guy now can be kind of a jerk. This guy's kind, like very much a good guy. In some ways, he almost seems a little more together than Hal in his presentation.
Yes. And I thought that was something that really did shock me because like Guy, I'm like, wait, and it's the notion that there's only one ring and it rotates between them when one's needed. And I thought that's something else that threw me completely for a loop, that Guy doesn't have a ring. Because I'm like, when they're talking about Guy, I'm like, okay, why Guy would just blow his secret identity to save these children? Well, but that's not how the rings work. There's one ring for Earth. And if Hal's not available, it's set to automatically go to Guy.
Yeah.
And that's how the ring does it in this current universe. And I'm like, oh, okay. And again, I like present day Green Lantern, where yes, there's multiple Green Lanterns that have from Earth that have rings. I like that better, but I do like how they explained it here and why they did it this way. Mm-hmm. That way, it's only Hal Jordan. Well, now it's only, if he's out of cold, it's Guy. Well, Guy's out of back, so we got to activate the other guy. Activate the next backup with his John Stewart. I loved how they played this out. For me, this was a really cool, oh, wow, that's neat. Yeah.
The yellow school bus hitting Guy, I thought was a interesting thing, too, because Hal was able to manipulate the school bus, but I'm assuming he's doing it because he's grabbing the bottom of it, right?
Yeah.
At least I hope it's that.
You can kind of see the energy underneath hitting the frames and the tires. So that's pretty much where I'd say he's doing.
Yeah. And so Guy's going to be okay because Hal gets him to the hospital quickly, but being okay is going to keep him out of action for quite some time. I loved this concept. Everything about, like, this is our introduction into John Stewart. We get to see him very much at street level, who he is. It really is like a new season. I'm a big fan of Doctor Who when they switch to a different actor playing the Doctor. In this, I like that we're getting to know John Stewart now and just how John Stewart is interacting with police officers, how John Stewart's interacting with his friends, just what the whole environment looks like, and also getting a lay for the land of what was street level 70s like. Because we need to know what that looks like in order to understand him and just his reaction to others in general and how he's going to be different. I love that they set the stage that even now you can read this and you get an idea as far as why John's got a chip on his shoulder.
And I'll be honest,
and he's right to have one. I'm not knocking him. I love that the story is making it undeniable.
And here's the thing: I would love to say things are better now, and they probably are. But there's still this kind of interaction. There's still these issues that we have present day.
I'm going to be so good right now because I don't dip into the politics thing. This week in general, we have examples of it. It's kind of, come on.
I know.
What's the matter with us?
And that's the thing. And right here, you're seeing really how it was. And we still see this today, just little variations on it. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, we still have this kind of direct interaction that we're seeing presently. Now, I do think things are better, but we're not Camelot. We're not Utopia. We're not where everybody's treated equally. There are variations on how you're being treated based on the color of your skin, unfortunately, based on your economic levels, based on whether you're a redneck or whether you're a suburb dweller. There are a lot of people are being treated differently based on external factors other than what they're actually doing. And that is a sad thing on society. And it is nice little quick glimpse of this, showing this what was going on back then. But again, that's why this reads so good today, because we still are seeing this kind of stuff.
I think where we're better now is that there's more people willing to have these kind of conversations where we just got to get better. Comics, I think where this is great to talk about, we often talk about, and I've referenced this on previous episodes, where comics are so woke now and that type of thing. Take that. I hate that using that term even. I'm only throwing it out there just because it's been kind of a criticism. If you look back at this was comics being woke. This was comics taking a look at current society and starting the conversation. And I feel like as a kid, I always got that from comics. It was just an open-minded exploration. Storm being the leader of the Uncanny X-Men during Chris Claremont's run was different. He was challenging the norms. He was doing something a little bit different, made her a very, very strong character, embraced her background, which made her super cool and interesting. And a lot of what Storm came from, and a lot of Storm's issues, because remember, Storm had claustrophobia issues and stuff like that. All of that stuff was very grounded in, let's build her from the ground up and try to stick to realism with her. From her background and the fact that she was a street thief to try and just try to survive. I loved all of that stuff with that character. John Stewart, I'm seeing the makings of that with this too.
Yeah.
My connection with this era of John Stewart isn't as strong because I was too young. So it's nice to read it now and be able to connect it to things that Claremont was doing with Storm because of the fact that that was more contemporary for me. My first foray into the X-Men, Storm was the leader, and it kicked butt because it was different than other. I was a big Justice League guy growing up, so it was different than the Justice League. Didn't make me hate the Justice League. I love the Justice League just as much. I love that I could read Justice League and get that thing, and I could read Uncanny X-Men and get something very, very different. It felt more rounded in your reading. This kind of stuff does the same thing for me. I loved the sit down between John and Hal here. Hal knows I got to approach this guy. This guy's supposed to be my backup. And he's having trouble at times relating. John's not a bad guy. Hal's not a bad guy. But the two of them have very different experiences. And Hal's used to dealing with Guy, who, on paper, when you take a look at Guy's very similar to Hal. This guy isn't. Right. So they have a tougher time connecting and getting grounded to even what a Green Lantern even means. This was cool. I love that John immediately tosses off the mask. That sequence where he first gets the costume put on, and he's like, listen, one thing I won't wear is any mask. This black man lets it all hang out. I've got nothing to hide. So again, we've got a John that is not in the more today's reality. John has had reasons to be concerned about his family and making sure they're safe and stuff like that. But now we've got a John who's like, I want people to know who I am and not hide behind a mask and that type of thing. I don't disagree with him here because of the fact that he's just going to be a little bit of a different flavor. I actually really like the storytelling here.
Oh, yeah. That is something I've always liked about John Stewart, that he does that. He's like, no mask. And I've always liked that about him. And later on, he's going to make, when we talk about him, he's going to have the mask back on. But in issues after the ones we're talking about, he once again takes off the mask. Yeah. And John Stewart without the mask will again come up again. And it's all about the not going to hide who I am kind of thing. And I love that. And it's one of those things, like, it's the great debate about Superman. Why doesn't Superman wear a mask? And they've been multiple comics where they talk about it, where he wants people to see his face and approach. And that's why he hides as Clark Kent. Whereas Bruce wears the mask because it's part of the intimidation, and he hides his identity because it's all part of the thing. John's got that same kind of thing as Soup does, where he's like, I want them to see my face. I want them to know I'm a man.
The only area where I disagree with him, and it's something that's short-sighted, is at some point in time you need a secret identity because you're going to connect with people that can't defend themselves.
Right.
And you don't want them to be used to get to you, which ultimately what ends up happening with the villains. And that's something when you enter into this realm you have to think of. But I love the story. I love where they're going with this. And that opens the doorway to that being an issue that you can eventually tackle with John Stewart. The whole thing going on at Ferris Aircraft, and I'm glad that as we are exploring these issues take place over a span of time. Ferris and Hal don't end up leaving the equation. I love that Hal's saving the aircraft and saving the people in the aircraft, but John, again, with his chip on his shoulder, 1,000% shot the oil in their face.
If you look at his construct,
oh yes,
he's got the one part of it where it's holding the oil truck from hitting, and then the other part that's puncturing the hole.
Yes,
so he 100%. I love that, and again, it was something that I missed when I was first reading it, and then you go back and you see when they get hit in the face, you're like, oh, then you flip back, you're like, oh, right there, yeah, he's puncturing it, he's spraying him with oil. Outstanding job. But I also love the fact that John picks up handling the ring quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. Hal's like, hey, you got a real talent for you've mastered this quickly. And again, it goes back to that architect mindset. And same thing like with Kyle Rayner, his artistic mindset where he's got that looking at the intricate details, why he's able to. Hal and Guy are able to do it because of just that upfront hoorah kind of mindset. John's got the more that intellectual side, and Kyle, again, he's got the creative artistic side. That's why each one of them have different strengths with the ring. And I do love seeing that John's picking this up real easy, and I love seeing that.
This really is a lot like the interactions between Hal and Ollie when you think about it, because John hasn't had a chance yet to figure out what his Green Lantern looks like. You know what I mean? As far as what does he want the message to be? How does he want to politically interact with people? How does he want to represent the Green Lantern Corps himself? But you're seeing that and that's what's interesting when you switch the character. If you're switching the character and they're going to be the same doggone guy, it's not interesting. When you do it with this, and there's a storytelling reason and a background reason why this character feels the way he does, I love that when you put him in there, these two are now interacting, and you've got new hard-traveling heroes.
Yes. Yeah.
It really is in a very unique way. And that part is really, really good because I get Hal. You know, I mean, where Hal's trying to say, hey, listen, you're being irresponsible right now. But John's got some really strong arguments as far as why he feels the way that he does. And I don't disagree with him either.
Yeah.
And I think that's the interesting thing about the two, where you're like, Hal's trying to concerned with, I'm a space cop. My job is to help out with these things and make them not to cause a situation here. But John, I get John, and I love that when John's explaining himself and why his anger's there, it's like, how do you argue with that?
No. And again, it's neat seeing these two this initial interaction where, again, you mentioned how we're back to an Ollie and Hal relationship kind of thing where they're butting heads. And I love the fact that Hal's like, okay, fine. You're now in charge of guarding the senator. Mm-hmm. Now, this racist senator that you hate, you now have to keep him safe. And again, I like that he did that, but I also love how this does play out. For me, once again, this is showing some classic John Stewart intellect.
Yeah.
The fact that we're there, and it's, again, this would absolutely be horrible. Sitting there, you think about it, having to sit there through this nonsense that this guy is obviously babbling. But again, he's got a right to say it. Free speech. And I do love how when the action kicks in, they're both jumping into action in a different way. And I love the fact that Hal does the initial, oh my God, an assassin, I got to go. And John's like, not me. I'm leaving. And I love the fact that he didn't just abandon the senator. He knew what was actually going on. Hal was just seeing the surface. John was looking deeper.
And where they don't have a friendship and a partnership yet, he didn't clue Hal in on that. And I don't fault him for that. These two just had a major argument over some serious ideology differences. I did like when the senator's giving the speech, Hal reacted, he's babbling nonsense, all right. Such stupidity is the price we pay for free speech. And I liked that bit because I'm like sitting here, well, good, you're showing Hal that like he's objectively able to view the situation and go, this guy's a moron, which is a good thing. But I like that doesn't instantly make things good between John and Hal. These two are not friends. They don't have a long-standing... There's a difference between two friends that have known each other a long time, and all of a sudden you've got a philosophical debate like this. You can come back together pretty quickly. The person, their intention, things like that. He does not know Hal. And I loved that he immediately I'm not going to sit there and start trusting this guy right now because of it. I see what's going on here. You go ahead and do your thing right there. I got a different plan that's going on. Yeah. That read very real. That's the way things would go down. They don't have that relationship. This is very smart writing. And that part blew me away. I was like sitting here like, wow, cool is this? To take it to a very realistic level.
Again, this is John Stewart. Right here. These pages are John Stewart to me. And again, like you said, he and Hal do not have the relationship.
Yes.
So it's absolutely brilliant idea. And I loved how
you're pissed. Wait, there's another. John is pissed.
Yeah.
And this is a direct offense to him. And I get why he's pissed. And I love that the book is reacting to that. That is good writing. Sorry. I was really, this sequence is one of my favorites in the book because it's very subtle, but it is so grounded in this is writing team, because it looks like Neil Adams was heavily involved in the creation too. I love that this creative team was recognizing that what this needs to go down like. Super cool.
Oh God, yeah. And I loved how It's funny in the end how this played out. Hal hits the assassin, and I did air quotes around assassin, and John actually finds the real target. And the real target was just some cop, just some guy doing security, and not the senator. But again, it was all about just make it look like there was the riot and they're out of control and all that stupid nonsense that this senator is spewing. And I love the fact that John recognized that the senator wasn't in danger ever. He had blanks in the gun, but the actual cop was the one in danger. And again, the reason they're going after this cop is because he's a white cop. They want to rile up the people saying, look at this. It's some crazy riots going on here. And it's all a political ploy by that senator to escalate himself as this great hero. And I loved how all this, the different levels of this played out.
I agree.
This, again, brilliant story being told. And throughout it, I do love the fact that it's not really even until the very end that Hal starts recognizing, okay, I see what you're doing, and I like the fact that even at the end, he still wasn't like, good job, welcome to the Green Lantern Corps. There's still stuff going on between Hal and John.
He sort of apologizes to him, though. And I'm going to say sort of, because it wasn't a direct apology, but when he sits there and says, I'll admit, John, your style turned me off. I was more than ready to stick blame on you. That's his admitting I was wrong, as close as you can get. But that's great writing, too. He's still going to be on the defensive, right? And this is a tentative relationship between these two. And I love that it doesn't end clean, because I like that John's reaction is these two, I think they end off good. They don't end off great. And I'm glad they didn't end off great. I think there'd be something wrong if they did. And that's where comics, because here's the thing, a comic maybe 10 years before would have ended off great. I love that they were taking the edge. What should this really look like? And I love that. I love that it's not, and we're now skipping off together into the sunset.
Yes. Well, and it needed that. And yes, there's little stuff going on. There's multiple levels with the senator now. There's multiple stuff going on between John. And just that final panel was really kind of cool, just looking on even John kind of like, hey, no sweat, pal. Only style isn't important any more than color. And I do like the fact that there's still just a little bit going on there. They're not buddies yet. They will eventually become friends. And I love seeing when John, I love when all the Earth Green Lanterns are actually become really good friends. I love reading that. But the fact that it didn't happen overnight makes it more realistic, makes it more real. And again, the storytelling, I completely love how we do get to see why John was doing what he was doing. And I love this. This was, again, a great John Stewart story and a great introduction to this guy. And again, I look back to this when this was written, how long ago. This was a great introduction. And I do love the fact that at the end of it, they say where or when no man can say, but rest assured, John Green Lantern Stewart will return. And I do like the fact that they do say, hey, he's not a one and done. He's coming back. Yeah. And I'm so happy we're going to be talking a little bit about that. But again, I really did go more depth than what we actually read, continuing reading the stories of John Stewart. So
the panel with the blanks, where look at the look on Hal's face. Yeah. That is just brilliant artwork. When the blanks are dropping out into his hand and you see that look on Hal's face, you don't need any dialogue there at all. The dialogue adds to it, certainly. You don't need any dialogue at all. You can fill that right in from the visual right there. That is amazing, Neil Adams artwork. I mean, just the attention to detail that is there. Just, ooh.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And also shock and awe on the machine gunner when his barrel's turned up, pointed at him. Hey, look on his face. But every time they capture John Stewart's rage, that's another brilliant, just again, it does show just that the rage as well as the calm moments where you really do see John's face. Those are some cool stuff there. I love the detail they give into his face and just the emotional expressions. Those rage moments are absolutely brilliant, but also, again, that final panel of the calm. I just love that look on his face where he's just got that, you can pretty much, I can hear the tone of his voice. just from looking at that. I love that.
I want to talk, can we talk a little bit about the Green Arrow co-feature?
Yes.
Just because of the fact that I like that it's there. So we've got a co-feature backup story, and it's Elliot S. Magan, who is the writer on this one. And I really liked that this was a straight out and out Ollie story. I love co-features. I am a huge fan of them. And I really love that Neil Adams was still doing the artwork on this because it looked really good. It gives you a quick little recap of Ollie's backstory, how the fact that he used to have big money and then big business came and he got screwed over. And now he's still operating as Green Arrow, much more street level than before. The page, when you flip the page, that page 2, when you get to see him, the two sides of Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow side and all that, this page is stunning. I just think everything about this page, the Green Arrow action that you see there, mixed with Oliver Queen, I'm glad there's so much focus on not just him as Green Arrow, but who is Oliver Queen and how is Oliver Queen going to make impact on the world? That's what this whole co-feature's about. I knew that this happened, that he started heading down this route for mayor. I didn't know where. I didn't know that we were going to get a chance to talk about that in this particular feature. But this page, when they frame up inside his body that kid, which that kid is so pivotal to kind of changing Ollie's viewpoint, I just loved how gritty that is. This is an example. We talk about things that I want on the wall. This I want on the wall.
Oh, God, yeah. And again, art read-through was huge on this page for me. Because first reading through, I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't even notice the kid first read-through.
I'm saying
what's going on, and you see like, oh, that's the kid. Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. And then you really start diving into this. And I do love the fact that this Oliver Queen, again, he tried when he had money. He was a philanthropist.
Yes.
He was trying to help people. He wasn't just a greedy thing. And if you're a superhero, if you're the Green Arrow, you're a member of the Justice League, you would use your resources to help people. You should, at least, if you're a hero. And I love the fact that they made sure to let people know, hey, even as Oliver Queen, he tried to help people. He did a lot as Green Arrow, but he also, as the man, tried to help people. It's some of the cool stuff that Bruce Wayne does, where the Wayne Foundation does a lot of benevolent stuff. And I always liked that about him. And Clark, as a reporter, he's doing the human interest stories, putting light to things, and he's taking down criminals as a reporter and not just as Superman. So I love when these heroes do on the side as their persona, as their secret identity, are still being heroes.
Yeah. The whole story that's going on here with Star City and the fact that we have to figure out who the mayor's going to be and what's going to go on. And they're trying to find somebody that's a good candidate. And Oliver Queen's name gets thrown in there because of the fact that they know his social viewpoints. They know that he's a name that people will recognize. It makes a ton of sense. As far as searching for a candidate and the reasons why they're searching for Ollie. This is a great place to take this book based on what we saw of him in Hard Traveling Heroes. That he's going to be a different sort of mayor. And trying to juggle being a mayor with trying to juggle being Green Arrow is a whole other beast. I love during this, I'm jumping around a little bit, I love that the thing comes up about the beard.
Yeah.
I think it was Clark that said that the beard was going to stick out, which is, it's ironic that Clark's pointing out to the fact that, hey, they're going to, two people run around with a beard like that. It's kind of but I'm so glad they're not insulting our intelligence and they're making that point of saying, you got kind of a unique beard, dude. Not a whole lot of people are sporting that.
and I am very, again, like you, I was very happy when I read that. I was like, yes, because that is something that 100% would draw attention. But again, on one hand, I'm going to justify some stuff. I'm imagining in Star City, there are a lot of people who are now sporting that look just because Green Arrow support is sporting it.
You don't see it in the issue anywhere, though.
No, you don't. But I'm just assuming.
So if a lot of them are doing it, they're way off page.
You think about it. Like when Friends was big, a bunch of people were doing the Jennifer Aniston haircut.
But you saw it.
Yeah. I'm thinking off page, okay? Way off page.
Wait,
But
the Rachel, going where you're going for, the Rachel was a thing. And you saw a lot of the Rachel. In this book, you know what you don't see? A lot of the Ollie.
Yeah.
I get what you're, here's the thing. Let me pull back the joking a little bit. Your point is valid. There's going to be a thing where, and Ollie could very simply, if that's going on in the town, could sit there and say, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
It's a good look.
Yeah. Hey, well, I'll be honest with you. If we lived in Star City, I'd have the look.
Oh, dude, back when I had hair, if I could grow a beard like that, 1,000% would have done it. People be looking at me all funky, but I would have done it in an instant because there's something wrong with me. I always liked that about Ollie. Ollie's look in general as a kid growing up, I was a big fan of Green Arrow. Just the look. I knew more about the character from the Mego action figure. I've actually got 2 versions of it now because they did, Figures Toy Company did an updated version with the hood.
Oh, cool.
So I've got that and I've got the original one too, which,
Nice.
because I remember as a kid, that was my first exposure to him was Mego and having the action figure because I was a Batman comic reader. And then eventually I was like, wait, he's a co-feature in Batman? Cool. Who is this dude? And then these Super Friends and all that kind of stuff that we got along the way. But that was more my exposure to the character was first as an action figure. I loved Mego. I still got my Wayne Foundation.
It's funny. I can see the character you're talking about over your shoulder. He's at the base of the Wayne Foundation. So.
Yeah, I've got a bookshelf that's off camera.
Yeah.
And what I have on there is I have a whole row of Mego action figures, and I have the original one too.
Yeah.
I have the hooded one on the Bat Cycle, and I have Black Canary on the Bat Cycle with them, just because I can.
Yeah.
I don't have an aero bike, but it was kind of cool. I do like that when he's making the phone calls, it wasn't just to Clark. He made it to Diane, of course, first, to Bruce. And I love that Bruce is explaining, mayor of a big city? That's tough. And I love that he's going to him because Bruce was a senator at one point. Sitting here saying, do you want to do this? And I love that Bruce is sitting here saying, like, mayor of a big city? That's tougher than the way you get your kicks now. I love he's going to say, don't do it. I think he's getting really good advice. Went to Hal. I love that he went to a team of people and just that he respects. And they're all giving him the answer, stay away from this. And I think he's going along with that. He's kind of like, I'm kind of unsure about this anyway. And I loved that. I loved everything about it. I got to say, I want a rocket quiver.
Yes, I want a rocket arrow too. That sounds cool.
Mm-hmm. That thing was way cool.
Yes. And I like the fact that he does comment on how it's got some anti-smog type of stuff, anti-exhaust stuff.
Yep.
Because again, having it that close would be an issue, especially again, back then stuff doesn't burn as clean as it does, as fuel does now. And so it's kind of, I'm glad they're acknowledging little stuff like that.
He's also talking about the air in the city.
Yeah.
So he's dealing with actual city smog that he's dealing with. So and which he's referencing as well. I agree. I'm building off of what you're saying, not contradicting.
No. Yeah.
The larger picture is I could suffocate in this city. So I love that he's bringing up the point of I'm dealing with smog up there. We don't get that a lot. You get these cool gadgets and gizmos, and very rarely do you get that. You don't need a ton on that. You just need that little dialogue point, added a reality to it. I'm like, that's cool.
And this city does have a major pollution issue. It's one of the current mayor, why he's done. He's like, I put too much in there. This city is falling apart. Where infrastructure's bad, pollution, everything. He's like, I'm done. I'm going to be a full-time grandpa now. I put in my time. And that happens a lot of times to politicians where they get burned out and are like, I'm done. And even Hal was the one who threw that at him saying, hey, it'll tear you apart. I know my brother's a district attorney. That kind of stuff, man, it weighs on you, especially if you're a good person. Being a politician and any of that kind of stuff, if you're a really good heart, that one of those good people where it's your heart on your sleeve and all that stuff, all the trouble you're going to get and deal with is going to hurt you. It's going to weigh on you. It's going to be hard to separate yourself from the pain.
The riot that's going on right now that Ollie's in the middle of, I love that he's in a situation where he's got to ask, he doesn't know who to blame. He doesn't know who to direct his anger towards. He doesn't know how to handle this. I love that it's chaos and he's trying to do what a superhero does, right? You're looking for the bad guy. And I love the commentary of, I don't know where that is. I thought that was just very real. And then this poor kid hits Oliver Queen with the stick. It hits Green Arrow with the stick. And it's the kid's just reacting because he's in the middle of all this. And I love that the kid didn't recognize that it was Green Arrow. And he's all apologetic about it because it's a superhero. And because he's taken his eye off of what's going on around him, he's collateral damage. He gets shot. Yeah. I guarantee you the gunman wasn't looking for this kid, just fired because of the fact that now this has gotten out of control. Violence has gotten out of control. And Ollie, I love Ollie's. There's so much of this that we don't get the details of. There's not a conversation going on. Some of this is silent. He's taking the kid to the hospital. We don't need all of that dialogue telling us all of that. The visuals are guiding us, and it's much more powerful when we're filling in the blanks on what Ollie's thinking, what's driving him there. The tears at the end, when you see that sequence with the tears, is so much more powerful because of the fact we've gone on this emotional journey filling in the blanks ourselves. This was a strong choice. What a powerful sequence. They gave this the right amount of panels to go on the journey with the kid. We're riding along with Green Arrow and the kid. And I loved how they handled this. This was an exact right amount of page count for this.
You know what I loved, especially about this? We never find out what happened. Why the riot?
Right.
What caused it?
Right.
We never find that out. Mm-hmm. And again, it's, in a way, it doesn't matter, but it's more powerful that we don't find out. It's just the violence that is escalating. It's just the general society is tearing itself apart. And I do love seeing on Ollie's face the tears, but I also love seeing the rage. You have to have both emotions at the same time. He's angry at the system. He's angry at life that would claim this kid who is just there. This senseless death is a great description of that kid's death.
But what can you do to get a pulse on that? And that's where it's like, okay, there's certain things I can't do as Green Arrow. This is something that Oliver Queen can do to get a better pulse on what is going on with our city, that it's getting to this point. I actually am with you. The fact that we just know that there was a riot and that Dinah's there supporting him. I like that he went to her house and she's like, I've got to go to work, but you can stay here and sleep. I love that. That feels very real too. You know what I mean? He's spent at this point, and she catches it. Like, he shouldn't go home, sleeps on the couch. I love that. It was a great ending. I just felt it was very, very realistic. And I didn't want to ignore the co-feature on this one because the collected edition does not have this story, understandably, because it's a John Stewart collected edition. But it's the More Than 50 Years collected edition that we were using to kind of pull some of the issues from. But when I looked at this issue on the app, it had the co-feature, and I thought it was worth talking about because we've done so much with Green Lantern and Green Arrow. I'm so glad this was just a grounded Green Arrow story and had Dinah. I like the use of Dinah, and it was really, really strong. So let's go to that Justice League issue, the Santa Claus story. I'm a geek for these.
Yeah.
The whole thing kicks off with this a really cool story where there's a local Santa that is getting dressed up with the Justice League ready to help. And then just obviously this is a much more friendly Batman, Superman. I love this era where the two of them, they're buddies and they're meeting up with Santa Claus until Santa Claus is taken out.
Santa Claus goes boom. Yeah. And that for me was, again, in these issues, the amount of death that happens in these issues we're going to be talking about is a little bit, wow, I didn't think comics back then were doing this kind of stuff. Approved by the DC, approved by the comic code, we got a dead Santa Claus. I'm like, wow, I never thought that. And again, it was one of those moments where I was like, whoa, caught me off guard, to the point where I almost didn't read the note that came along with it. The shock of the man who murdered Santa Claus was like, whoa, what's going on here? I love that. And again, your comments about the more friendly Batman, and just this was a jump. It was getting used to. I think this one had more glaring adjustments I had to do for the writing and the style versus the other stuff we've been talking about.
It's very interesting to jump from Neil Adams, Dick Giordano art to Dick Dillon, Dick Giordano art. This is very good art. I'm not knocking it by any stretch. But oh my gosh, what a tough thing to follow in this. And by the way, very good storytelling, visual storytelling. I'm not knocking Dick Dillon when I say it, because this is a very good issue, actually. It took me, but what I'm saying is, as a reader, just because of the fact that you and I have been doing so much Neil Adams stuff lately, to go from Neil Adams to anybody else right now is quite the chore. What I'm going to say is a tremendous compliment, and I mean it this way. I thought Dick Dillon's storytelling in this, the visual storytelling, was really strong. It's just really, oh my gosh, Neil Adams is like, it's like your Alex Rosses and people like that.
Yeah, he's on another level. And it's good luck following that. It's kind of like when, it's kind of like when Jeff Johns left a book. You're like, who's the next writer that has to follow that act?
Yes.
Kind of same deal for us, even though he's not following them, but it's in our mindset and our discussion, we're getting some following. And again, Len Wein, also brilliant writer, but what we've been dealing with, it was kind of like, this issue was the jarring issue for me, just because I'm so used to one style of writing, one style of art. But again, awesome stuff. This is some great, I love this issue.
Now, our other remaining issues are all Len Wein issues. Yeah. So the nice part is this was a good kickoff for us, because this was a really good Len Wein Justice League story. I love this. This is a good done in one, really good issue. It was, you're right. We're shifting writing now. We're doing all those pieces and I'm glad we had 3 issues. By the end of this, I was like really enjoying the storytelling style and the shift. So you get there and you kind of got to get into a few issues to kind of get myself a flavor going here. This was interesting because they do the all call for the Justice League and everyone's busy.
Yeah.
Except for a few. Oh, you've got, we've got Red Tornado. We've got Ollie and Dinah, but Aquaman's busy. Elongated Man and his wife are busy. We've got the Adams busy. Barry Allen's in the far future with his wife. We're at that stage. I love that this set the stage for where are we at in storytelling. And I forgot this would have been during the era where his wife was in the far future. And there was we got to do some Barry Allen studies at some point.
I had no idea any of that. Because I'm reading in the far future. I'm like, okay, her parents 1,000 years in the future. Why? Yeah, I know. One of those.
Iris's story gets wacky.
Yeah, so that's something I was like, I was going to ask you about. And so the fact that the story's wacky, maybe I'm going to be finding some Flash stories from this time period to try to get my hand on that.
Well, Mark Waid built off of that because of the fact that with the death of Barry Allen and everything like that, Iris had knowledge of the future because Iris was from the future. So there's things going on like Impulse and Bart and things like that. Yeah. Iris is in a different place than everyone else with all of that stuff. So there's a lot there. Like we could do a whole tangent on what was going on. Mark Waid is a huge DC history fan. So when he took over the Flash and was doing Wally's Adventures and gradually started reintroducing Iris into the universe, introduced Bart into the universe as a concept, he played heavily off of what we just saw there in that single panel.
Yeah.
So I geek out at stuff like this where you kind of go back, oh, this is that era. Okay, that's cool. So Hal's fall was maybe not the most graceful thing in the world. It was normally silly stuff like that makes me groan. I loved it in this. I love that the Ring kind of checked him out. Hey, he's okay. He's going to sleep that off. Everything will be fine. And goes and gets John.
Yeah,
this was an interesting choice, and this fits. This is very much a Christmas issue story. So when you think about Christmas special stories by tradition, there is what was the reason why Hal's taken out so that we've got John in this? I loved the choice of John. I love that John is a fish out of water with all of this. He didn't know he was going to be brought in. Now all of a sudden he's the assumption by the Justice League is that, dude, you're one of us and you're going to help us with all of this, right? And he's kind of like, guys, I didn't sign up for this. I loved the whole flavor of this. It just worked really well. And I like that Ollie is immediately suspect. Like, where's the other guy?
Yeah. Well, because again, Ollie's like, hey, Hal told me about this dude. Soup, let him talk, Mm-hmm. So I do love the fact that Ollie knows about John. The others don't.
Right.
Ollie would know because Hal's his friend. And when John first came on the scene, Hal would have complained to Ollie about this guy who's his replacement because Guy is out of action. And again, this was a neat thing about the ring back then where one's out, okay, I'll go and get the other one. And I like that. But I also love Red Tornado in this.
Yes.
Again, how he's completely artificial. There's no humanity to him. And that is something I thought was kind of neat seeing, especially Ollie trying to tell him it's Christmas Eve. So it's just another day. I love that little bit. And I love the fact that you see Ollie just getting angry at him.
Yeah, yeah. And Red Tornado is a great character in Justice League, especially in this era. If you haven't read this era before, and this story, anybody's following along with us, this story is your first exposure, it's well worth seeking out other issues and seeing more of what was going on with the Justice League during this time. Because the idea that Red Tornado was more than just a robot, that there's some real heart to him, and he's trying to navigate with the world. Best way to talk about it is there's a lot of elements in Red Tornado that you can equate with like a Data in Star Trek and those type of things, which I loved Data. I loved his journey in Star Trek. I'm not saying it's the exact same thing, but there's certainly, if you like that exploration of can a machine become something more, it's this. This is that kind of story. And I love Red Tornado's story, and it's told over time, similar to Star Trek. Star Trek's the best part about Data's journey on Star Trek was the number of seasons that they gave that journey, and that was a gradual journey as well, where it went. Loved all that stuff. So it's you'd be right at home here if you did not read these issues. Do yourself a favor, seek out some of these Justice League books. The Red Tornado stuff is really good.
Yeah,
especially for this era. I do see Batman as a detective and the team working together, trying to follow the deduction of the gateway with the key and everything. I thought was really cool. Knowing that they're being manipulated, they're supposed to do this.
Yeah.
Was super key here. It was, no pun intended.
No pun intended.
Yeah. Really was no pun intended. I do love the journey of them discovering where they're supposed to be going to. And you know what's great about reading this the second time through? The man in the shadows, you start to see clues.
Yes. I
did not see them the first time through. When it was eventually revealed who the man in the shadow is, I'm just going to go to it. It's the Phantom Stranger. None of the pictures registered that he was the Phantom Stranger. Reading it through a second time, they sure did. Like, they did a very good job of having elements of the Phantom Stranger there without letting it was the Phantom Stranger. So when you go back, there's nothing that, like, in the art, you go, that's not the Phantom Stranger. He was. It was really, that's what I'm saying. The art team here did a really good job on setting up this mystery in a way where you can go back later and go, the continuity's there. And I love that. I love when they do stuff like that, where they didn't give it away, but yet when you look back, everything fits. And this is a good story. Christmas stories, I used to always think and holiday stories in general, I used to always think of as throwaways. This one's a good one.
Yeah, it is funny because I'm sitting there and I like the fact that John, he's not just there to be there. He's supercharging the ring so that they can find what building it belongs to and all that stuff. And then you got Tornado flying around finding it. I like the fact that they did that nice team dynamic. And they even mentioned if the Flash were here, we just have him do it, but he's not. So we got to improvise and they got to adjust. But again, that sequence with those kids, I don't know about you, but the first time I read that, I thought they were part of the trap.
I did too.
I was immediately thinking they were part of the trap. And I love the fact that I was wrong and where they went with these kids.
Yeah.
I do like that. I also like the fact that John wanted to help him, wanted to use the power ring, but he couldn't. Mm-hmm. There's limits on what he's allowed to do with the ring. And it's neat that Ollie has an understanding of what the Guardians want because of all his time hanging out with Hal. He knows the Guardians don't want him to just whip up a bunch of money for these kids or do something like that. He can't you can't affect people, blah, blah, blah. But I do love the fact that it was Ollie talking to him.
I like that it was a 1-2 punch, though, because Ollie was explaining to him as a friend, like, hey, listen, buddy, and he's calling him John. He's not. Yeah, or Stewart. No, he's not calling him Green Lantern. And I like that was something subtle that was happening along the way. I'm not accepting that you're Hal. It's Hal's Green Lantern. But as he's explaining those pieces to him, I love that it pays off later. John's starting to learn the rules and winds up later on following the rules, but making life better for those kids.
Yes.
This was a cool story that I felt like we got to know more about the characters. I love when you do like holiday stories where there's a really strong story, there's strong character development, and there's character growth. This was an issue with a purpose. Instead of being like, hey, let's phone it in and tell a cute little holiday story and move along. This is not a traditional filler issue at all. This is a depth-filled character growth issue. I love these. These are my favorite. When you sit there and go afterwards, man, I know everybody better here. This is a good jump-on issue. Yeah, I'm not a Justice League reader, and I end up seeing that this is a Christmas issue, and I grab this. Victory to the entire creative team. This is a great. I would want to this made me want to read the next issue.
Yes,
it was that good.
Yeah, agree with you completely. And little stuff maybe chuckle. The trapdoor catching them, and then you have the yellow core, so John can't affect it, but it's giving off red sun energy, so Superman can't do it.
Yeah.
Again, neat little add-on to make the trap why it was a death trap and why they were working on it. Now, again, when the trapdoor first popped up, Superman could have flown up and not fallen. And John could have, if he could have thrown down a thing to catch them, he could have caught them. But even ignoring that stuff, I like the fact that it's the way they're building the death trap for our heroes. It's a very classic superhero comic book story, and I loved how it played out every little bit.
Isn't the sun there, though, so Superman couldn't fly out?
Well, I'm saying when the trapdoor first happens, Soup can fly, so he can just hover. Now,
but I think the idea was because of the surprise, he wasn't hovering.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just
I get you. Yeah.
But, and I think that the sun was like, let's put a cork on this bottle. I get your point. It's like Superman. I have a hard time believing Superman's reaction time is that bad. Yeah. he's been doing this more than a minute.
Yeah. No, and this does have the super jerk in there a little bit where he's like, "Shut up, Archer, and listen to me, whether you like it or not." You know?
Yeah.
That's not Superman, but it is. This period, he there's a lot of stuff where they have moments like that where you're like, Superman? Huh?
Well, remember, though, what he's saying at this point, Superman's realizing the desperation of the situation, and that he's probably going to die.
Yeah.
Because he does. I mean, like, if it isn't for Phantom Stranger, Superman would be dead here.
Yeah, and that's another thing where, again, Soup shouldn't have been that easy to kill, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because of, again, what was going on in this. And I don't know this Superman or anything like that, so I haven't read a lot of this, so maybe this is a common thing. And I do love the fact that...
Well, it's the red that you're figuring that they're throwing him directly into a red sun.
Right.
Is at least that's how I'm reading this. So I'm like, all right, that would kind of do it. I get what you're... I mean, like, this is all moving pretty quickly, but they're all going to die unless they throw Superman into a red sun. It ended up working... because the Key's plan is to take them out gradually.
Yeah.
One by one. So each stage of this trap is meant to build on itself. Like if we get, I think the Key's plan was we take Superman out here, then we can gradually he knew that one of them would sacrifice themselves and set up a trap that it forced the issue.
Yeah.
It's actually a really good trap when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what else they would have done there.
Well, and again, he's been laying out a trap for the Justice League.
Yeah.
And again, this was a really good Justice League trap.
Mm-hmm.
You take out Superman first. That's the big guns. And then the next trap with the gas, I love the fact that how they dealt with it. Tornado couldn't do his tornado things because they're in such a confined area. And I love the fact that it was the Black Canary's Sonics.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's cool. But if you sacrifice yourself.
Yes, and she would be stuck there. And that I loved that. Loved it.
Yeah.
Each trap only had one way out.
Yeah. And again, also, where Ollie's like, we got to move fast. She's like, I can't. I have to stay. But you don't. And does one of her judo flips, throwing him through the portal as it shuts. And again, Dinah being Dinah. Again, a really cool Dinah Lance moment.
I like that the Key is assuming that Keyman number one is still Keyman number one. It's his thug. again, when you see Keyman #1, you see the white gloved fingers. I love that. I love seeing the details now stand out to me that like, oh, wow, man, the attention to detail that it is Phantom Stranger. But you wouldn't notice it as a reader as you're kind of going on through because we never zoom out with the character. But I love the editor's note for the key, too. I'm a big fan of, hey, this is the last time we saw this character was in Justice League number 63. So a long time ago. But they're pulling back the key at this point in time for this big event issue. The pinball sequence was kind of cool. The giant globes, like Christmas globes. That was a good sequence.
And I liked how, again, this is how we get rid of Green Arrow and Batman.
Mm-hmm.
So this one gets rid of two people.
Yep.
And good usage of way to get rid of the villains. And I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then even the next round with the yellow toy soldiers to fight John Stewart. So again, this is a trap set up for the Justice League. So you gotta know about the yellow imperfections, and you assume a Green Lantern's gonna be there. Well, we need yellow, so there's your imperfection.
The whole drive of this is for the key to kill them, so he outlives them.
Yeah,
because the key's dying, and I love that there's because of the chemicals you've been injected with. You are dying because of them. So his revenge is just, I want to take out the people that I fought against during that time.
And here's the funny thing with the state of prisons, and currently we have a lot of times where someone who is dying or someone who is so old they're deemed as not being danger to society anymore getting released.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he got his parole, it does ring true. And even though it is, again, it's a comic book, so everything's stretched out a little bit in reality, but there is actual stuff. And it's funny because this is one of the arguments that people will make against letting these villains, letting people who've broken the law out because they're old or because they're dying. People are worried that they're going to have one last hurrah saying, hey, I'm going to die, so I'm going out with style. And it's funny seeing that that's what the key does here, that he's like, I'm going to die, so I'm going to kill the Justice League before.
I love that you're saying this should be sent to every judge in every prison. Just read this issue. This is why you shouldn't do that. One of them might be the key.
Yes, exactly. But this is an argument that people will, because when someone's up on for parole and they're super old or they're dying, the argument will always be, hey, they're not a threat to society anymore. Look at them. And the opposite side is always, hey, just because they're old, if they're not rehabilitated, they're gonna find a way to hurt people. Yeah. They're gonna do something else to kill people. And so I loved seeing that. And I kind of chuckled with that, but also I loved the big reveal where he's like, yes, I did it. I outlived them. And it's like, forget it, brother. The tag on that gift said you can't open it until Christmas. And we're still a few minutes before midnight. And you flip the page and there's John Stewart. And then there's Soup and Black Canary, Green Arrow and Batman. I love this. He's like, how, what? And I love just that confusion on his face. And we get the big reveal of Phantom Stranger. This really was a great little issue. And again, I'm not huge knowledge on this time period. Actually, this may be one of the only books from this time period I've read. But again, these characters, and you understand who they are, and so I like the usage of this for a great Christmas issue. But the fact that we weren't done. This wasn't the ending of it. And I love that.
This was, I like that the villain kind of won. Yeah, or at least their death trap kind of was enacted. He turned the key and he's like, is my failsafe? I'll settle for second best, just as long as you guys lose.
Yeah.
And I love that technically you won, but their first thing is let's team up together and get all the people away from this and contain the blast. All this is stuff that John Stewart can do. And this is where we get the flip back. He allows the area to explode, but then is able to use the ring because he's not creating new buildings. He's resurrecting the old buildings as they originally were.
Yes.
It falls into the rule. He's using a technicality. It falls into the rules of the Guardians. So he was able to reconstruct the buildings as if they were as good as new. So now these people have new digs. It was like really cool.
Yeah, again, it's brand new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
clean, not infested with roaches or rats or any of that stuff. I love this how John.
He references collapsing ceilings. I work for a school district where we've got to deal with aging roofs, because I'm taking over operations now. So those type of things, what ends up happening is the more water damage that you have, so you need to fix that stuff quickly. They have no money to do any of that at these facilities. He's now given them a safe, sound, and secure environment that's healthy, that they can live in. What a gift. I mean, super cool, restoring them back to original condition. Love the technicality of all of that. It was, and that there was an earlier storytelling reference to he can't create these new things for them.
And again, adding further, the architect can pull this off.
Yep.
All further on who John Stewart is. Hal Jordan would want to do this, but probably couldn't be able to.
Yeah.
But John can, because he knows how to build a building. He knows how to create the blueprints. He knows from a foundation to from floor to ceiling how to build an actual house, how to actually build these buildings. So he could do it. And I love that.
I did like the epilogue with Red Coordinator's. Yeah. I did not know. I knew Red Coordinator's costume changed at some point in time to the one that is, this is the Red Tornado costume I grew up knowing. So we're starting to get caught up now or starting to get closer to the years that I first started reading Justice League. And I didn't realize this was the issue where we got to see that as a gift given to him by Dinah. And I love the idea of this being more appealing, more friendly. It is. It's more superheroic. Whereas his other one was very cold. It shows the continued evolution of the character. I like this Red Tornado costume.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so everything was great. Everything was really good here. This was a very good Christmas issue. Again, I normally take these as a throwaway. This is a really good issue. All right, Jim, before we kick into the next issue, actually, I want to shout out, and I believe it was Jared from the forum, and I apologize, a Facebook group, I should say. He mentioned a game in passing, and Jared, if it was somebody else other than Jared, please let me know, because I want to give you a reference. There's a game called Dispatch that's out that wasn't on my radar. It is an episodic game, kind of in the old school point-and-click adventure games, but Telltale games, for anybody who has played any of those games, it's very much one of those. The idea is that you play this superhero that's kind of like Iron Man, but he's a legacy hero where the grandfather did it, the father did it, and then he did it. But the idea is there's this expensive superhero suit, right? What happens when this thing breaks down and you don't have the money to repair it? And now all of a sudden you're approached by this big-time Justice League kind of superhero group. It's like, what if you become one of our dispatchers and we'll help repair your suit? That type of thing. But they're dispatching groups of villains in a heroic fashion, or it's like you're dispatching them and kind of guiding them because they're trying to reform, guiding them to solve crimes. It's very mature. It's kind of like The Boys meets Justice League kind of vibe to it. So it's got a little bit of something for everybody. It feels enough classic like Marvel DC with a mixture of some of the modern edgy superhero stuff that's out there. It's fun. It's a really cool game with a great story. It's done very well because they keep expanding the number of systems it's on. So it's on pretty much everything now. I have the PC version from Steam that I got right now, but it just released on Nintendo Switch or Switch 2, I should say. And they did kind of censor the content on the Nintendo Switch 2, but now they're going back and it looks like they're going to uncensor quite a bit of it. But it does have toggle settings as far as if you want like black bars and they want to censor out the profanity and stuff. It's a great game. So far, I really like it. I'm not all the way through it yet, but I jumped on it particularly because of the fact that it was referenced in our Facebook group. So I appreciate everybody who posts things there. Check it out. Our Facebook group really, they post just a ton of really cool, relevant things there. And that's really just because it impacted me where I'm like, I don't know, I'm checking out a game that I bumped up. I would have gotten to it eventually anyway, admittedly, but because it was recommended in our Facebook group, I'm like, oh, I should really bump that up a little bit higher. And I'm so glad I got to it because it might have been a couple of years before I got to it with my gaming backlog if it wasn't for this. So thank you very much for the recommendation because I'm loving it and I just want to co-sign on his recommendation. It's really a great game. If you're not checking this out and you've got a gaming platform of any sort, grab it. If you're a comic geek, this one's for you. So, Green Lantern number 1882, it kicks off with the thing, who is going to be the new Green Lantern? And so this is quite a bit down the road. Now, all of a sudden, this is in the 80s that we've jumped forward to. And this is, again, Len Wein is the writer and the editor, Dave Gibbons on pencils, and Mark Farmer. I love Dave Gibbons' art. This is, again, Watchmen-style art. But Len Wein's writing, all these years later, he wrote him in Justice League, and now we're continuing on with the story of Hal and John. I remember this era. So this was an era, I didn't read every issue of Green Lantern, but there was quite a few issues of Green Lantern that I picked up along the way, either from flea markets or from 3-packs or things like that. I always loved this and wanted to read more of it because by this age, I was a big Hal Jordan geek. I loved Hal Jordan. This was great because you didn't drop Hal. You put a new Green Lantern in place. Hal was still having adventures. Hal's stopped being Green Lantern, made the decision to move on and to give up the ring and let the next person take over. And it's very firm on it. It's like, I'm kind of done now. I want to build on my relationship with Carol. I want to go back to being a test pilot. I want to do some of the things that I've given up in my life in being a Green Lantern. I've done my time. And I loved that the book did not make the decision to now write Hal out.
Yeah.
He's an intimate part of all of this. We've also got Tom and him who are like brothers. Tom's angry with him because Tom's like, you made this decision to drop Green Lantern. I have been your confidant the whole way. You didn't include me on any of this. So it's put a little rift between Tom and Hal where he's like, you keep saying I'm your best buddy. He's been Hal's Jimmy Olsen at all this. And he's like, you didn't even include me in? I'm supposed to be Green Lantern's best friend. And I love that that's a very real rift that comes on between the two of them. And it's a very interesting era. Have you read any of this before?
None whatsoever. This is all, everything we're talking about today, I read first time for this show. So it was kind of neat for me. And it was one of those things where like, Hal's not Green Lantern. I never knew he resigned. So again, I jumped on you jump on the app and all the issues are there. And I highly recommend anybody go out and pick up the issues leading up to this, as well as 183 and 184, which are between the two issues we're talking. 100% recommend reading. There's some great Green Lantern readings. So if you haven't read it, and all of it's on the app. So pick it up on the app and read it, or all of it's available on Comixology if you want to actually buy it and pick it up that way. Or either way, it's available. I recommend reading it.
I'll add another thing to it. This is a great thing to do at comic shops and cons. Start filling in the blanks if you want the physical issues. One recommendation I'll have, though, I'm a reader. As I seek out stuff to plug in the holes of my collection, I end up reading them. So it all depends on what the purpose of your collection is. Are you holding them to try and keep them mint, or are you going to turn the pages and have a little fun? This was really a great era. This issue that we're talking about right now, I know I have not read before, but I've read issues in this era. So I'm very familiar with what's going on with the story. I just had never read this particular issue.
And it's one of the things I do love about the digital age of comic books, how easy it is for me to get my hands on this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I do chuckle because I remember when it first started, you were all in on it. And I'm like, oh no, I want paper. And now I'm like, I want it on digital. And I get upset when it's not available digitally. Like the Hard Traveling Heroes went through, we're reviewing it. We got issue 87, which was a John Stewart. And then the next digital issue is 89. Issue 88 is not available digitally anywhere on the app or on Comixology. I'm like, I'm going to have to go to this comic shop and find issue 88 just because I need to read the issue between them. Because I've continued on from 87 on. So I've read 89, 90, blah, 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 all through that just because I was interested in the story. I wanted to see what happens. I want to see what happens with Hal and Carol and all them.
I'm running into the same problem with streaming. in general. Remember, the great promise of streaming was that eventually everything is going to be at a button click and all of that. The problem is they start realizing the cost of storage and stuff gets mothballed, and ownership rights and things like that start to become an issue, especially when you're getting into music and other things like that on particular programs. It starts to become expensive to keep all of that stuff available. So the great promise of streaming has not... I'm a fan of streaming. I like some of the original stuff that's coming over there, but I feel like we still have not figured that out yet, and how to keep things like multiplex theaters viable and all of that in the process. We're still trying to navigate all of that. Comics are the same thing. It's digital ownership is becoming a concern of mine. I love the immediacy. Like right now, I'm looking at my iPad. So all of this I'm doing with the iPad. But this book that we used to put this together, I own physically. I love the fact that I don't have to pull it out right now. I can have it on my iPad. It's readily available. I like the app just as much as you do. I use our DC app all the time for the show, as far as being able to download and have the books on cue that we're going to be talking about. I love all of that. But I'm buying a lot of collected editions of things that I haven't bought floppies for. If I buy the floppies, I don't necessarily get every collected edition with it. But if it's something where I read it digitally because I have that premium DC app, I will then go back and seek the collected edition of those stories to have them, because I want the physical ownership. Because what happens when they stop the service?
Right.
Same thing with Comixology. I feel like there's a certain amount of ownership there, and I don't think Amazon's going anywhere, but stuff gets restructured all the time. I get worried about what do I actually own out of any of this. And that's my only real concern, because I buy movies that way too. I buy it digitally now. I buy everything on the iTunes store, or the Apple store now, I should say. Yeah. I'm dating myself calling it the iTunes store, but I buy everything on the Apple store because I have Apple TVs. So it's really convenient to be able to have like my own like mini streaming service available to me. And it is a concern with comics, because this is a great example of, these are classic stories. I want to be able to read them. So that's why you hear me on the ads geeking out over these DC collected editions and stuff like that as they're coming through. It's because I'm buying them and I love them. I genuinely love them. And some of the things that we shout out are things where they're not available digitally, to your point, especially in some of those DC affordable collected editions. They're putting some stories in there that have not been collected digitally. So it's nice that we're having them. I'm glad you're geeking out over this as much as I am. This to me is going back to my childhood, because this era I remember, and it's fun being able to now as an adult go through and read some of these stories and fill in the blanks on what was going on with Hal Jordan during this time, and how John Stewart interacted. I love that it kicked off with Hal. And we get to see him on this quest and going to see Abin Sur, because we've seen him for years now on a quest of trying to figure out who he is and how he finds life balance and all that kind of stuff. This is where Hal becomes really relatable. When we start having these stories where not everything's perfect for Hal. Hal's a human being, and there's flaws to him. There's things he does right. There's things he does wrong. He makes good choices at times. Sometimes he makes choices that forces him to question himself. And I think he's a far more relatable character as he's gotten out of the Silver Age version of himself and more modernized, where he's not perfect. And he's a guy. I mean, you feel like Hal's accessible in these, and this has been a great story for that. Great Dave Gibbons art. Dave Gibbons is a name that's most often associated with Watchmen, but I really like his artwork and storytelling in all of this. Again, this is an example of, by this issue, I've gotten out of Neil Adams mode, and I'm enjoying the other artwork.
Yes.
And poor Dick Dillon, just because of I would love to go back now and read some more Dick Dillon issues, just because of the fact that once you get used to an artist and their storytelling, then you start to really love it, right? We got couple issues with Dave Gibbons that we got a chance to shout out in this one, and started getting into this flavor pretty quickly.
I know, and again, it's funny. We've been doing this we're coming on 20 years.
Yeah.
And I still, there's some artists that I can 100% recognize, but then there's others where I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. And I got to stop and think about where have I seen this before? Where have I seen this art style before? And I'm not as, I still think writer. Yeah, and that's always been my draw on comics and always understanding it. But Dave Gibbons is one of those where when I was initially reading this, because again, what I do on this is I got my 3 read-throughs. I don't look at creative on the first read-through, to be honest with you. I jump right in and I read it. Then on my second read-through, that's when I start looking and start diving in, okay, who did this? So, especially on the second read-through, which is the art read-through, I look and see, okay, who's the artist? Oh, Dave Gibbons. Okay, I know that name. This is somebody I enjoy. And so you go through at my art read through knowing who it is. And it's still, and there's sometimes when you got to stop and think, where do I know him from? What I know the name, but where do I know him from? And then you start looking at the book and you're like, oh, okay, I know that one. Yeah. And it's one of those neat things that has happened over these 20 years of us doing this that I've understood and gotten appreciation on the creative teams on this. And his artwork, again, is one of those really just brilliant art styles that I really enjoy. Classic comic book artwork for me. But again,
also I want to shout out, did some great Doctor Who stories too.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's there. I say classic comic book artwork, but I don't want anyone to think I'm diminishing it or anything. For me, that's an art style. And it's this is the stuff that we grew up with reading. And this is the kind of stuff that we compared other artists to.
Yeah.
When we're reading a comic book, this art style right here is what I compared everybody to. If they didn't have this kind of art style going on, I would think it was weird or different. This for me is what I'm so comfortable with. And I love the details on faces, the surrounding details. Something as simple as just the mountainside, something as simple as just the background of the wreckage, little things like that, little just moments that the artist took time into giving us. Just the sorrow on Hal's face as he's there talking to Amonsur's grave and saying, hey, hello, old friend. Oh, and just how he's saying how I failed you. I let you down. I'm sorry that I couldn't be what the life you wanted out of this. I couldn't do it. And I love just the look on his face as it's going on. And just, it's some really cool, just adding on to the story being told. You can feel Hal's sorrow and depression and just what he's emotionally going through.
And really Hal's still trying to figure out who he is. He's had a crisis of conscience as far as who he is. I think we've all gone through that in our life. I know I have. Yeah. And it's funny reading this now and understanding it even more from a personal perspective. There's points in time in your life where you question your decisions. And am I pushing myself as far as I possibly can? Am I feeling fulfilled? Am I feel like I'm fulfilling others in the things that I do? I think we've all go through that in small or larger spurts along the way. And I love the relatability of Hal in this, because that sometimes is the accusation of certain eras of DC characters. They're so high up on the pedestal and they're so perfect that you can't possibly relate to them. They've organically gotten Hal to a point where he's very relatable. Yeah. And this version of Hal Jordan, this is if you were to say, Sean, what was it that made you love Hal Jordan? It was this era. I read many comics during this era. So it's fun to read an issue that I haven't read and go, oh, I remember this. I don't know how I missed this issue, but it's a very good issue.
And again, it did throw me that we're reading about Hal Jordan, but he's not the Green Lantern anymore. He doesn't have the ring.
Smart, right?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I love that. That was so, and it didn't, but they gave us this great Hal Jordan story, but they still give us some great John Stewart stuff. I do love the fact that, and especially the issues after this one and going forward, you get some really good, solid John Stewart Green Lantern stories, but they don't dump Hal away. They don't get rid of Hal. Hal's still around. And I love how they did a great balance of Green Lantern where we got to keep Hal in the story, but John Stewart's the Green Lantern. We got to make sure John Stewart is the Green Lantern in these stories. And I love the balance they gave us in this stuff.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I loved the most about this. Did you read any of the Ben Reilly Spider-Man stuff where Ben took over?
I heard about it, but I never read any of it.
It was good stuff. I really enjoyed the era. One of the things that I found in some of the issues that I was missing, though, was Peter. I know he was a clone of Peter and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into we could go a whole other tangent with that. But I loved like Ben's story, got really into Ben, but there were times where I wanted more Peter. What's going on, Peter, Mary Jane? That's so we got some of it along the way. We got miniseries with it along the way, and we did get references to it. But I always wanted more because Peter was my guy. I think if they had done something like this, I would have liked it even more. And I'm talking about an era, too, that I enjoyed. So I want to be clear. I enjoyed the Ben Reilly era and still have a very soft spot for the character and enjoy reading him no matter what crazy shenanigans they do with him. But I really like this choice of this is a great way to introduce John Stewart. Really play around with John Stewart by at the same time giving us the balance of, but why can't we focus on Hal's story and tell you what he's doing while we're fleshing out John and giving him an opportunity here? And this whole Guardians debate, they didn't believe him. I love that. They're like, oh, he's gotten mad before, which we've seen. We saw that during the Hard Traveling Heroes. He gets plenty ticked with them, and he's threatened it there. So years ago, he already threatened this. Now we're back to, wait, he's actually serious. Yes. And they've got to make a decision about this. To me, the Carol Ferris stuff and what's going on with her and April was a great part of all this. It was really good to see that. I did like the bits with Major Disaster setting up a villain coming back in, which we eventually want to see Major Disaster versus John Stewart and what all that looks like. Everything about this is doing a great job of setting up a lot of layers to the storyline where, yes, we're dealing with Carol and April right now, but we're also setting up the villain for John Stewart so he can play in this particular scenario. And we're now multiple pages into the book, and we're getting our first appearance of John Stewart.
Yes.
This was a lot of story before we even get to John. What a great setup for John, I think, because at this point, I want to know, all right, who's going to go after Major Disaster? Who is going to do that if it's not Hal? And we flipped the page and got to start to see more of that. This was really well done.
Okay, and I love the fact that we have in the storyline why John Stewart is still involved in Hal's life. Because we're keeping Hal in the story, so we're not doing John Stewart over in one part of the country, Hal Jordan in the other. No, John is there because his architecture background, and he's working for Ferris. So it's keeping him in the story, keeping them together. And I was glad that we got that. I was glad seeing that because, again, jumping into it, this is my first exposure with all this stuff. So I'm like, okay. Now, I have no idea where John plays out in this. Oh, okay, we got a quick explanation. I'm good to go. I know why he's there. And I love the fact that we get this layout of what John's working and how Hal's working on it as well. And then to your point, the Major Disaster. No idea who this guy was. I'll be honest with you. If I've ever read him before this, I don't remember it. But I do like the fact that we've got enough in a couple pages to give us an understanding of who this guy is.
Yeah.
He's not stable, 100%. And I love the fact that I was able to pick that up really quickly. He's got some power levels to him, but he's also not stable. And I love that, getting that, because that really got me, it encouraged me to see, because like you said, I wanted to see the John Stewart and him fight. I wanted to see that. And you got to give me something within a couple pages to give me that taste of, okay, yeah, this is going to be an interesting fight. So I got that.
I also love the dynamics of Ferris Aircraft. What's going on there and where there's a connection with John. You got John in there as an architect. You got him working with Davis. You got what's going on when the rest of the Ferris team show up on the scene. There is this intersection between John's life and Hal's life from these sequences, and it's a reason why it's not awkwardly connected in the book. So I love seeing them together. That was a great part. The solar jet piece is pretty critical because we actually get over 2 issues to see a lot more of the importance of this and what is actually going on with the scientist there. The scientist has a direct link to Eclipso because Eclipso hates him because of the fact that he does all of this research with solar energy, which is Eclipso's weakness. It's basically like he's crafting Eclipso's kryptonite, and Eclipso likes to screw with them because of it. Yeah, to the point where Eclipso at times has made him a host because of it. So I love everything about the fact that he's messing with his nemesis because, quite frankly, his nemesis has messed with him. And the story makes sense, and it adds a whole little creepy layer to all of this. We're not dealing with one villain. While one story's ramping up, another story is being developed. There's a lot going on in this book. This is really balanced writing where there's a lot going on in Green Lantern to be excited about in one issue. A lot of story here.
And I'll tell you, they did a brilliant job explaining stuff.
Yes.
Because I had no idea who Dr. Bruce Gordon is. I had no idea the connection to Eclipso, but they gave us enough information, so I'm understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
And it was, I like the fact that now the only thing I didn't know is what happened with the O'Rourke and her fiance. I never really got an understanding of. I had to go back and find other issues and read that kind of stuff to understand it. But the main characters in this story, I 100% was comfortable with who they were within the confines of the story. So I love the fact that they were able to present us with that information inside the page, so I wasn't lost. So if I was picking this up as the first issue I was going to read, I 100% could treat this as a jump-on point. Yeah, there's some little mysteries and windows and whatnot, but I still was able to follow the story, enjoy the story, because again, this is a great story, really had me wanting to read more stuff. So that's the goal of any comic book, to get you to not only to enjoy this stuff, but to say, I want to keep reading this. Yeah. I want to see the backstory. I want to see what happens here. That's what the story did a brilliant job in crafting. That I was like, oh, okay, cool. That page where they're showing like, oh, so he's associated with Eclipso. Oh, okay, that's cool. That's solar power. That's going to be an issue. And then you get that great news story with that Tawny Young, who's going to play a major part throughout the next couple of issues. I love just that quick, simple introduction, the quick, simple showing major disaster and all that stuff. I was like, okay, they're laying down the groundwork for the fight that's coming. I was looking forward to that fight.
Especially she's calling for Green Lantern. We need you.
Yeah.
We need your help with what's going on here. Clay's story is a good one because of the fact that I like that they're showing the grief, the sense of loss when you've been hit with this type of thing. I think that they're writing him really well. He's got a support network, yes, but there's something internal going on with him, which is very normal when you go through this type of thing. And I like that it's not in an issue or two, all of a sudden he's great. I love that there's certain points in time where he's outwardly projecting, like here he's basically saying, I hope the flood just puts an end to me right now. And then we have other issues where it looks like he's getting better, but internally he's still got the sense of, I'm never going to walk again. I love that this character has an arc with this that feels very real, very grounded, and that they wrote him human. And it makes the character far more interesting with the sense of loss. Tom and Hal, when they have their encounter here, I was thrown at first because I forgot that Tom was ticked at him. Yeah. I had to do a look. I'm like, why was Tom ticked at him here again? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. Tom's mad because Hal didn't include him. And, he'd been his confidant throughout all these years and just did not, totally left Tom out of the loop, which, is totally Tom's hobby has been being Green Lantern's sidekick.
Yeah.
And I get that.
And they do a great job in later issues explaining Tom's anger and actually even having the reconciliation between Tom and Hal.
Yes.
Now they spend a couple issues on this single topic. And again, it's all part of the Hal Jordan, not as a Green Lantern story, where it plays out with he and Tom.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they did that. And again, this initial issue, you're like, whoa, what's going on? And I love the fact that John and Hal knows who John Stewart is, but John Stewart doesn't know that Hal Jordan was the Green Lantern before him. I love the fact that that's played out. And again, it fits to what we were talking about, how those two ended on a good note, but they didn't end completely open and honest with each other. Hal wasn't ready to tell John Stewart his secret identity. So I love the fact that we got that.
Don't you think that's realistic, though? To me, I actually love the fact that he held that back. Because that's important. The secret affects everybody. It affects Carol. It affects Tom. It affects so many people as far as letting John in on that secret. I love that he's like, I like this guy. We're getting closer. We're not there. So that I'm going to give him the most vaulted stuff. And I love seeing these two together. I love seeing the relationship develop. To me, this feels far more like I'm really hanging out with two people. I'm more at the restaurant with them when I actually feel like they're real people versus the fact that these are characters that are just written poorly. Len Wein is a very, very good writer.
Here's something I loved about that restaurant scene. The way the waitress reacts to the fact that both of them aren't drinking. In real life, I've had that happen to me where I'm not getting any alcohol, and like, okay. Then the waitress puts you on the pay no mind list, because you're not going to rack up, you're not going to be getting more, you're not going to be having refills, you're not going to have more booze and all that stuff. So you get put on the pay no mind list. I'm like, okay. And I laugh because I'm like, if you had come back, I would have probably gotten dessert. I probably would have gotten this. I probably would have gotten that. But you just ignored me. So, okay, I'll just leave, And I've had that happen to me so many times in Vegas where if you're not sitting there two fists and drinks, they just leave you alone. And on one hand, it's kind of nice that you just not be bothered. But on the other hand, I'm like, I kind of wanted to see what kind of dessert you had. But since you didn't bother me, I'll just go over to there and see what they've got, And I've done that multiple times where I'm just like, I was going to get more stuff, but I guess not, So I love that little bit in there because, again, it's a couple panels, but it's realism in a comic book. And I love when the real world shows up.
Yeah. And that's really important. I think your good writers are able to do that. The John Stewart finally seeing him as Green Lantern was something I really needed. Hal getting the shock for the first time because the Guardians didn't tell him who they're giving the ring to.
Yeah.
So, and he's not necessarily 100% on board. It's like, oh my God, it's Stewart. They gave the lousy ring to Stewart. And I love that that's his initial reaction over that piece. I think that's true, though. So I had 25 years in my previous school district. The guy who took over for me is a good guy. I've deliberately stayed disconnected by what's going on over there because I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
What Hal's doing there. Where I've got to sit there and go, I wouldn't do it that way. I don't. I'm so busy at my new job and enjoying everything that I'm doing over there. I deliberately stay disconnected. He reaches out to me periodically there's certain things when you did it so long that hey, how did you do this piece? Or how did you do that piece? That's going to save him some time versus trying to dig through and find it. And I appreciate that. I'm glad to be able to help him continue to streamline and move forward quickly so he can move and do his initiatives and do it his way. Off of that, I don't want to know how he's doing it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be different than I did it, and that's okay. It should be. He's different than me. That's fine. I've gotten very comfortable with that. When I'm seeing Hal in this sequence, I'm like, that's why I do what I do. I don't want to know what that looks like. That's got to be the pressure with Hal, especially with how long he was Green Lantern and how much he was established. I love that they had that sequence, and I liked that they didn't make it good for him. That's great. To me, that would have been the weirdest, most unrealistic thing on the planet if they did it that way. Good for you.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Well, it's funny. When I first read through this, I will admit it kind of threw me. I'm like, of course, why didn't Hal know it was John? He was there when when they said it was the appointment. But to your point, I started thinking about, I've applied for different jobs and I didn't get the job. Oh, and then somebody else got that job. And I'm just thinking, I'm thinking about, there's a couple where wonderful people got the job I applied for. And I don't want to belittle them or say anything negative about them, but I will fully admit that there was times when I'm just like, why are they doing it that way? And I remember, especially in the one job that I applied for that a friend of mine got. And this is a friend of mine, actually, a work friend of mine, a guy I consider a good friend. He got the job over me. And I was just like, that was the tough one. That was like a knife in the chest because you're sitting there going, I can't badmouth them because they're my friend and they're a good person, but why not me? And I love the fact that we get this kind of reaction on Hal, where he's seeing John Stewart and did a good job, but he's still
as we all know in those circumstances, though, there's usually more than one right way to do something.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in the end, usually the important part is that you have a plan and that you're following through on that plan and there's some consistency. There's a lot of roads have different pathways to them, and you still wind up in the same destination, sometimes just as good in all of those cases. It's hard not to look at that and go, I would have done that differently, and feel like at the time they're doing that wrong. They're not, right. But it's not the way you would have done it, so in your mind it is. I love that this is the vibe in this, and I love that we're both connecting with it and from a very real world perspective. That adds so much to the dynamic in this. This is amazing writing. Len Wein is, I will admit my own flaw in this. Everything I read by Len Wein, I love. When I'm throwing out some of my favorite writers, I don't throw out Len Wein. Every time I pick up a storyline that was one of the ones that I grew up with loving by Len Wein, I'm like, why the heck don't I acknowledge the work of Len Wein more? Len Wein kicked off the whole new X-Men stuff.
Yeah.
Before Claremont, and it was fantastic, Len Wein's work on that. So he is an amazing creator who I am admitting for myself I don't give enough credit to. So I want to acknowledge that, because sometimes there's people who are just who have been supremely talented and contributed so much that actually as an editor too, he doesn't get it. Oh, that's one of those pieces too. Sometimes editorial, behind the scenes, the people that have been coordinating a lot of this stuff, working with amazing talent and doing it. Len Wein is another one of those legends on that end. It's somebody that one of my regrets is, and it's something I'm trying to correct, is wrapping my head more around the work of Len Wein that I've really enjoyed. This is a great story. I mean, this to me is a new Len Wein story for me. This was a page turner. A lot of stuff going on here. Filled in a lot of blanks for me where I knew a lot of these bits, but I didn't see the execution of this particular issue. This is a really well executed issue. And I like what you said earlier. I didn't know some of the things going on with this going in, but this issue gave me everything I needed to be a part of what was going on around me. That's great writing, too, when you're considering that's the problem with monthly issues in an era where you miss one, you're done.
Yeah.
You can't go back and get it.
Yeah. So, God, yeah. And they do a brilliant job with this. And again, I loved seeing John Stewart. Well, the initial lineup here, I love the fact that John doesn't just run into it. He doesn't, think we're at the end of the issue, so there's not enough time for him to actually fight, but there's still time where he's checking in with the reporters, checking in with the cops, the reporters there, getting some basic stuff. And then John's going into saying, hey, let's deal with this. And I love John Stewart's style where he's like, hey, you wanted a Green Lantern, you got him. And I love the fact that John's like not doing he's doing the John Stewart style, where it's not just going in, dun, 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 big punches and all that. No, he's going to try to have a conversation with them. And the next issue, where they actually show how he defeats a major disaster, spoiler, the Green Lantern wins in the Green Lantern book, but I'm not going to go into details on it because I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But the way he wins is absolutely brilliant. I so loved it. It was such a John Stewart thing, where the way he wins in the next issue, I was like, that's perfect. That right there, again, it's like the John Stewart that I know and love, I was reading right then. So right from jump, this is the first real mission he's on as Green Lantern. Now, the other issue was his introduction. This really, as far as I can tell, is the first major mission that John Stewart's on, because he's got the mask on still.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that we have this story arc. And I love the fact that reading this, and I read the next issue just because I had to know how this issue ended, because this ends with him on the dam with Major Disaster, who's threatening to bring down the dam unless the real Green Lantern shows up. I love how John took him down and how John won it. It was, again, brilliant writing, brilliant story, 100% recommend to anybody. As I said, it's on the app. It's on Comixology, so check out that. Any of the things you want to do, any way you want to read it. It's available out there, and I 100% recommend the story to you. And to your point, Len Wein did a brilliant job in writing this. I love this story.
This collection's a very good one, and where it's in particular a good one is the fact that some of it's Green Lantern John Stewart, A Celebration of 50 Years is the book, just to give you the actual title of the one. And when it looked like we were only going to have one issue left from Hard Traveling Heroes with John Stewart, it made sense to, why don't we grab a sampling of issues and just have a really good John Stewart discussion? So I went to this. I figured that was the case. The issues that they put in there make sense. Like going from this to then 185, if you're not going to be able to fill in all of them, as far as looking in air, and this next issue is a wrap up of part 1 of this particular collection, because there is then a part 2 and a part 3 going through different eras of John Stewart. And this was a good issue to have in there because it is more of an origin of John Stewart's story, again, done by Len Wein. And it has them starting out on a date. We've got him with the newscaster where they're on a date because she's trying to gather information. I love that he's got them out, like he's turned this into this whole little romantic thing where they're outside on a patio that he's created. Yes. And I love that even the waiter's kind of unsure. The opening panel where the waiter's unsure of being out there was really, really well done. This is a great example of Dave Gibbons' storytelling.
Yeah, there's no way I would have delivered food to that table. If I was that waiter, nope, not going to happen.
Yeah.
I would have approached the open window, said, here's your food. If you want it, come and get it. I'm not stepping out on that platform. Mm-hmm. My fear of heights, heck no. But, and again, the story plays out because at the end of the actual major disaster story, John basically, he's been flirting with that newscaster the whole time throughout that initial story arc, and she's like, he says, hey, we'll go out to dinner sometime, and this is her cashing in on that dinner that he said he was going to do. So I like the fact that they continue bringing her into the mix, and again, John Stewart's being smooth here. And I love the fact that as this is playing out, he is news. He's the new Green Lantern. And obviously he's not the original guy. He very clearly different physical look to him that everybody knows this is the new Green Lantern. She wants to get some stories. She wants some information on him. And I love that. I loved that they had that great flirtation, but this is a work thing for her. She wants the story. She wants the Lois Lane exclusive that Lois got with Superman. She wants that.
Here's where this was good writing too. I love that she asked the question, how'd you become Green Lantern? And we do the obligatory flashback where you almost think he's relaying this story to her. Yeah. I love that he's not.
No.
I know I'm jumping to the end with that piece, but I love the choice here because it's such a trope, right? That we get the flashback and it really is him conveying the story. And then the ending part would be her reaction to that said story that we've just lived through. I love that that's not what's happening here. He's thinking through the question, all right. And it's a really good one, like how he got zapped to meet the Guardians. And they're bringing him up to speed about how they want him to become a Green Lantern and he's ultimately going to be Hal's backup guy. And I love that whole storyline.
Well, to me, this wasn't Hal's backup. This was when they're offering him Hal's spot.
Right. Well, they initially brought him in as Hal's backup guy. I'm sorry. Yeah. We're saying we're yes to what you're saying.
We're saying it's okay.
Yeah. It's he had a 2-1-2 punch of this. He was Hal's backup guy, then he was actually becoming the guy. Because this is the next layer, because he's saying to them, it seems you often have desperate need of me, because this is beyond that, and I'm not discounting that, but you never consider my needs. So he's like, I've been on call as your backup guy and all that. Now you want me to be the main guy. I'm not sure I can work with you in this capacity. You're not considering me. We really are saying the same thing, because I think you need to set the stage for the fact that he's not going there blind. He's worked with them before. Now they're asking him to take on this whole other layer of this thing. It's like, you guys haven't supported me at all now. Now you want me to do more? What's in it? Like, what's the natural thing is what's in it for me and what kind of support am I going to get? You know, it goes beyond being a superhero. It's like, guys, you are never there for me, which is a Guardian criticism. And it builds off of what Hal's been establishing as well. And I love that John's continuing that storyline about, so what's the deal with the Guardians anyway? You know, they're these alien, they don't quite understand what's going on in our world. And I love that element of them, that they're not all of a sudden fixed. You know, the Guardians still have pros. They're these great, powerful entities. They also have immense cons. And this is great that this concept's continuing.
Yes. And again, I love the fact that John initially tells him no.
Right.
I love that. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And it's the other Lanterns who were friends of Hal who then step in.
Yes.
If it wasn't for those other Lanterns there, the friends of Hal who want the ring to be honored because their friend, in a way, they probably agree with what Hal did and why he did it. They're probably having the same thoughts that Hal did about, forget you guys, I'm out of here.
I would say that they all probably have unique feelings about it, and they're torn.
Yeah.
They want their buddy there, but they want to support their buddy too. They've been comrades in arms and things like that. It's like anything else. I think in private with Hal, they were probably trying to convince Hal, just because I'd like to go back and reread those issues because I'm sure they were all over the place on it. But in the end, they wound up supportive of him, which you'd expect. The person that I really want to highlight in this one is Kat Matui, because of this is the kickoff of what is going to be an iconic relationship between the two of them. And her being the key player in this starts to set the stage for something that is going to come later between the two of them. And I loved how that was written. It was great to see this here. I didn't know it was this early because this is another issue I have not read before. And it was great to see that be a piece. See how strong she is in all of this.
Yes. Well, and she, again, that was neat seeing her as being the one who can push his buttons and gets him to go on. And again, it's great dialogue between these two characters.
Yeah.
This is their first interaction, their first meeting of each other. And it completely makes sense, each one, what they're throwing out there. I love that.
I do too.
And again, it's funny because one of the things that caught my attention was the little cricket-looking dude that's sitting on the one guy's shoulder. Mm-hmm. I had no idea who that lantern is. And I was like, I've got to ask Sean if he knows who that is, and how do I find more stories with that guy in there, just because he caught my attention. You know, so I'm throwing it out to you, Sean, who the cricket-looking guy is.
I did at one point. I don't remember now. I've had various runs where I've read various Green Lantern runs, and I'm looking right now.
Well, now, one thing also I was thinking in my head, these are all friends of Hal Jordan. They want the ring to stay on Earth because maybe that could bring Hal back.
Yeah.
And that's something I also did like, because that was a little subtle part of the story. And I always forget what her name is. And she's thinking, oh, please, for Hal's sake, please. And it's not only it's honoring their friend that they served with, but also thinking if the ring stays on Earth, there's a better chance that Hal could maybe come back. And I like that little notion and that idea going through the head as being such friends of Hal Jordan. These are Hal's close friends in the core. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing to throw in there as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to look up the character just to see if I can find out who it is. And I'm not. It keeps taking me to Chippin', and I'm. That's not who we're talking about here. I'll look it up during one of our breaks and see if I can figure out who the character is. Anybody listening, who that character is, please let me know. I know Rija is a major character. Yeah. Tomare, those characters are the ones that stand out for me. I've seen that lantern before, but if you were to ask me, I don't. I'm not going to try to make up that I know the name when I don't. Yeah, that's not standing out for me. I've seen the character before. Part of that, one of the great things about the Green Lantern Corps lineup is the amount of really cool alien races that they've put in there that have added flavor to it, and that was one of those characters. I do love that after he gets the Green Lantern ring and then flashes back to present day, he tells her, "How did I become Green Lantern? No comment," and then she dumps the spaghetti on his head.
Yep.
Because she feels like I set myself. He knew why she was there. She knew he knew why she was there. And he never had any, and she knew it right then and there. He never had any intention of telling me any of this, which is why she's infuriated. That was a great sequence of events. I do love the Eclipso bits, where we get to see more continued growth on what's going on at Ferris Aircraft, what's going on with Eclipso stalking him. And the Gordon history and stuff like that was great. We also got Predator introduced in this one, or I should say further expanded upon in this one, where he's stalking Hal and Carol, really looking to bring them down if they are involved in any way, shape, or form in what's going on at Ferris. And clearly looking at them and going, well, they're clearly not involved in this, so I'm just going to move along. Adding, again, another layer to this storyline that's going on. A lot of story going on in this book. I always am amazed at writers who are able to keep a roadmap going of all of the characters that they need to touch on in order to keep us interested in those characters. And no matter what, if you skip an issue, you're still going to be able to get caught up on the status quo of those characters because you've got multiple storylines going on.
Yeah. And again, it was funny because, again, Predator's character, I had no idea who the guy was. I had no idea past, present, or future. But they did a good job letting us know, okay, he's not involved in this stuff. He's looking for whoever is trying to tamper the solar jet. So that got me thinking, could it be different people? I don't know. I love that. Again, I wanted to read the issues afterwards to find out who he was, read the issues before to find out who he was. And again, ending with O'Rourke and the what's his name?
Jane.
Great. Yeah.
Jane.
Seeing them, I didn't know who these people were, but I got enough gets me interested in his story. What happened to him? What accident happened causing him to be paralyzed? What did he do before all this stuff? Because he obviously was a physical guy. He obviously was a hero of some type, and I love the fact that he's got those, you mentioned it before, where these moments of yay, and then his inner dialogue is depression. Because again, you run into that. There's a lot of people who put this outward face out there on depression, saying, hey, everything's awesome. Everything's great. Yeah, looking good, man. Feeling good. And then in their head, they're thinking, life is horrible. Kill me now. And I love the fact that we get that in this character. Again, made him very realistic, just in a couple panels. Still no idea who the guy is. And I know O'Rourke just because the name is so familiar. April O'Rourke, her whole family is all familiar and tied in with this. So I knew who she was, but I didn't know who this guy was. And I love the fact that even though I don't know, I didn't feel like I still wanted to learn who this guy was, learn what happened to him, who he's supposed to be.
Yeah. It's the supporting cast and the fact that has an effect on... I love that heroes' worlds have cause and effect, right? And accidents happen, and sometimes they're directly involved. It leads to guilt. It leads to, sometimes leads to people being angry at certain heroes. Predator is a great example, too, going back to Predator for a second. In a world where there's vigilantes, you see how that it would inspire people to go, either they want to jump on board to be an additional asset. They're critical of how current heroes are doing it. Like, why aren't they doing more about this? Or why aren't they doing it this way? And it would inspire a different kind of Punisher-like vigilante or that type of thing. You see how that would start to happen in this world, both because of heroes and villains being active. I could don a costume too. I could do it better than they can. I can tackle the things that they don't seem to care about or don't seem to bother with. I love when stuff like that gets fleshed out, and this book is doing it. This is stuff that we kind of equated as, I thought this was a good part about 80s comics, right? It was starting to head more into this territory, and this did a really good job with it. These issues in Ferris where we got to see more about Hal, the hotshot coming back, and he's the boss's daughter's boyfriend.
Yep.
Now he's got his spot back as the hotshot. Well, he bumped me out. This should be me. I should be in there. Not just because, and he's not bumped out just because of Hal. He's bumped out because of his health issues. He's recognizing that, this is my chance. I need to be in there. I thought he was going to sabotage Hal. I did not realize he took Hal's spot.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that Hal was like, hey, Hal is just respect to him. And he's like, hey, ready? I have you to thank for all this. He's like, no, man, you were the one who taught me everything I know. And Hal's being genuine here.
Yes.
And Hal's like, this is his friend who helped him helped him become the pilot that he is today. And I love the fact that Hal's got that genuine thing. And when he takes his spot, part of it is that last hurrah. And I understand why he's doing it.
Yeah.
And the fatal heart, his heart's bad, and this is it. This is his last run.
He's trying to go out on his terms.
He's going out on his terms, going out. I'm going to be the one to test this plane. This is my last test pilot. This is it. I'm doing it my way. And I love the fact that they initially are like, when they first realize what's going on, they're like, come back, and like, we can't. He's got to do this. And they're like, okay, let's rock and roll. And I do love the fact that he's able to pull it off.
Yes.
That for me was something I was very happy to see, that they gave him the opportunity to do that. They didn't force him to land, because he can't really force a plane to land. He's got to choose to land, and they let him, okay, let's run through the test. This is your test now. I thought that for me was a really cool moment until the Calypso showed up.
Right. And that was a great ending as far as leaving us in that cliffhanger. I thought the issues that they chose for this were really, really good. I think, to your point, they lend you a flavor of what's going on, but they also prompt you to want to go seek out additional reading. I feel like they did a great sampling in this part one of kind of where John Stewart was at in this era. And I feel like by now you've got a really good idea. And then I have not yet read in this part two. I'm going to read more of the 50 years piece as we go forward. I've kind of done what you've done, where I've started seeking out issues more in the hard traveling heroes line as far as that era goes, and more of the era that we've read right here now to fill in the blanks on those stories. But I'm going to continue on that celebration. I find myself, I don't know if you do this, I collect these cool little celebrations of 50 years of these characters. I never read them.
Yeah.
That's why I went to this. I was like sitting here, I'm like, what? I've got a book that they kind of give you their recommendations as far as if you want a flavor for the character at the time. Why don't we use that for the episode? And I'm glad we did, because I thought this was a well put together book.
And again, I read the next issue after this one. The Eclipso story was absolutely brilliant. I loved how it ended. Another great John Stewart, but also some really cool Hal Jordan pieces. So again, loved how that story played out. And the back of each of these issues had other Tales of the Green Lantern Corps, by the way. Mm-hmm. The actual real issues have these. And again, characters that I had no idea who they were, but because each part was, the backup story was told incomplete in 2 issues.
Yeah.
And so again, great job with that. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm loving this. So I loved how the fact that we're getting these backup stories of other Green Lanterns going on. And it was a neat story. But again, the 100% recommend to anybody that you pick up the actual issues themselves. Pick up the 50 years, because that's a cool read. I've read it. It's a great read. But pick up the also individual issues, so you can get.
Did you read the whole thing of this?
Is a story.
The more than 50. What? Did you read the more than 50 years? Did you read the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Because the actual text pieces that are in there, kind of setting the stage for each era. Because part 2 goes to 87 to 96, and I love the pieces that are in there that are kind of giving a flavor overview of the area. It was really good. Really, really a good book.
It's a book that I have. Paper sitting on my shelf, and it may even still be in the wrapper. I picked up the digital version, and then pick it up. I'm reading it on the app.
It's very good.
Yeah.
Nice work, Atom. What are these characters up to?
RagingBullets.com is our show website. That's where you'll find details on episode releases and upcoming episodes. We feed into Twitter/X. We also feed into a Facebook fan page. We are proud to be part of an amazing Facebook group community. I actually reference them on this episode. It's a great group. They're constantly posting news articles and discussion topics relating to comics and pop culture, and really appreciate everyone who participates there. I go there first to find news just because I find that the people who are listening to our show tend to be on a pulse of things that I want to talk about. So I really appreciate everyone who takes the time out of their day to occasionally post articles and blog posts and podcasts and things like that they think might be relevant. Please, if you're somebody who has a podcast or a blog and you feel that it would be relevant to our audience, feel free to use our Facebook group as an opportunity to cross-promote. All I ever ask of you is that shout us out as well, just so that way people know that we're out and about. I'm a big fan of cross-promotion. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Seguin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have DC Finest, The Joker, The Last Ha-Ha trade paper, DC Finest, Wonder Woman, Dawn Before Darkness trade paper, and DC Finest, Batman, A Death in the Family trade paper. All of these are 48% off, only $20.79. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com. If you miss pre-ordering those, you can do a search for DC Finest as well, but just released is DC Finest Wonder Woman Enter the Cheetah. This is 536 pages. It collects Sensation Comics 19 to 34, Comic Cavalcade 3 to 7, and Wonder Woman 5 through 9. These are all from the 1940s and the first appearances of the Cheetah. $39.99 regularly, 48% off, only $20.79. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. The About Us section of our show website is where you can connect to us on social media and personal gaming platforms. I'm a regular co-host on Is It Jaws, where every other week Paul Spataro and I, and usually a collection of great guests, do reviews of films using the Jaws 1 through 4 scale. So please be sure to check out Is It Jaws if you're not currently a subscriber and you like film reviews. Our next episode, we are finally heading back to DCKO, and we are going to be doing Night Fight number 3, DCKO number 3, and Aquaman number 13, and we're going to be following that weekly until the end. So please be sure to join us next week.
Bye.
All right, you guys, are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't
What
mean
are you
anything
trying
by
to
that.
say? I think
Sean,
you're going to
Jim,
I don't know.
how long do you want
What's
the song to
that?
go?
Look, it's